My name's Doug Smith. I'm a study director at the Secular Buddhist Association. That's secularbuddhism.org. We're experimenting with a format right now, with a new format of doing videos. See how it goes, see how people like it. It's a little bit more intimate, a little bit more relaxed, a little more laid back than doing a blog post. So to begin with, I thought I would discuss secular Buddhism. What is secular Buddhism? That's a difficult question because, to be perfectly honest, there's no strict definition of what secular Buddhism is. Secular Buddhism is more of a grassroots kind of movement among a large group of people in the West who are interested in the practical applications of Buddhism, interested in the Dharma in a sort of a broader sense, but for one reason or another are not particularly interested in traditional Buddhist concerns with future lifetimes or with other kinds of supernatural components to traditional Buddhist belief. In that sense, secular Buddhism means many things to many different people. We have a large tent here, a broad tent of different kinds of approaches. And we'll all have our interests and the things that we're less interested in. I think it's important also to stress that secular Buddhism isn't anti-religious. It isn't opposed to traditional forms of Buddhism so much as interested in something different, or interested in slightly changing the way we look at the Dharma. The foundational texts that we rely on to know what the Buddha taught and how the Buddha practiced were preserved for thousands of years by monastics within a monastic context. Many of the foremost practitioners nowadays, and several of the foremost scholars nowadays, are themselves monastics. We recognize this, and as a result, we're not in any way anti-traditional or anti-religious. Secular Buddhism, I believe, exists to open a space for belief and practice for those people who are interested in focusing on this life in particular and leaving questions of future lives unanswered. For some people, that's because they don't believe in future lives. They don't believe in the supernatural elements of traditional belief and practice. For others, it's simply that they aren't sure about them, they're agnostic towards them, or they just aren't interested in them. Any of those would be considered, I think, secular Buddhist. In that sense, secular Buddhism has similarities to certain classical Greek philosophies like Stoicism, especially as practiced in the contemporary West. Also has many similarities to contemporary secular humanism. As a matter of fact, I think secular Buddhism should be seen as a kind of secular humanism, an ethical approach to life that puts the interests of human life as well as animal life first, that doesn't see ethical strictures as coming from some supernatural place, some extra-human place, or extra-natural place, but rather that ethical concerns come from this life concerns, issues of compassion, of not doing harm, rather than issues of interactions with supernatural beings. Aspects of secular Buddhism stem from many different schools of Buddhism. There are many people attracted to secular Buddhism come from, for instance, let's say a Zen tradition. Zen has an approach to the Dharma that is very skeptical in its outlook. As well, I think certain aspects of secular Buddhist belief and practice stem from the Insight tradition, which is a part of Theravadan traditional practice, stemming from some work of the Burmese monk Ledi Sayadaw in the late 19th century. And Ledi's made many kinds of advances or changes in the Dharma, if you like, modest changes along the lines that he believed were found within the early texts, but basically to bring the Dharma to a more lay community, to reduce the difference between monastics and lay people, to bring many of the practices to a larger lay community. And I think some of these ideas are reflected, many of them in fact, within a secular Buddhist context. As well, the Dalai Lama, in a couple of his most recent books, Beyond Religion is one of them in particular, and Ethics for a New Millennium is another, has argued for essentially a secular Buddhist ethical approach to both politics and society. He has argued for a non-religious ethics, but one that's based on, shall we say, universalizable Buddhist ideals. So secular Buddhism can be seen as, therefore, coming from partially the Zen tradition, partially the contemporary Tibetan tradition through the Dalai Lama, and partially through the Theravadan tradition through Ledi Sayadaw and his followers in the Insight tradition. So this is a sort of a thumbnail kind of understanding of what secular Buddhism is and how it may have developed in part. That's going to be it for today. We'll try to keep these things relatively short. Put any comments or questions or other topics you would like me to discuss down in the comments below. That would be great. Let me know what you think. Let us know what you think about the format, if it works, if it doesn't work, how it could be changed or improved. There's, kind of a limit to the technology that I have at my disposal, but I'll make do with what I can. And thanks very much.